All right. We are live, Real Estate Sales Solutions, and we are going to talk about building a perfect schedule, which, Abe, I am sure you have a perfect schedule. Is that right?
Always working.
No, yeah. So I didn't. I'm not looking for a yes in that. And I think that's part of our conversation, right? It's like, what is a perfect schedule? You know what I mean? It's like, that's a tough one, and so I think what we'll go through today is let's talk about our schedule and share with the audience what our schedule looks like, and maybe why it works for us, because so kind of like maybe the psychology behind the schedule, because I think that's also important, is I will kind of like, a lot of people are always asking questions about time management. And my take on time management is when it comes to time management coaching, okay, hey, can you coach me on time management? Can you talk to us about time management? And there's a lot of programs and there's a lot of day timers out there and schedulers and whatnot. But it seems like all the things that are out there to teach people how to be better at time management, it seems like the issue with time management never goes away. This is my opinion. And so I then say, okay, well, why is this? And what is the key with time management? And what is the key with scheduling? And I look at it and I say, well, really, it all comes down to priorities. It's scheduling and having the perfect schedule, good time management skills, getting stuff done, completing a to-do list, completing your to-done list. All of that is accomplished by a simple yet difficult task or list or mindset, and that is identifying your priorities. The reason why people say, well, I don't have enough time, and then we argue, well, we all have the same amount of time. It's not a matter of how much time we have. It's a matter of what we make priority within the time we have. So if we're going to talk about building the perfect schedule, we would be fools to not discuss what our priorities are. Then you figure out, okay, well, when's the optimal time to get those priorities done? And then how do you manage the mindset knowing that you got your priorities done, but there was still some things that you didn't get done? In my mind, who cares? If it's not a priority, doesn't really matter. What are your thoughts on all that? And let's get into what is that perfect schedule.
Yes. I mean, the perfect schedule really depends on the person, right? To each of us, a perfect schedule is going to mean different things. But I think you're spot on with everything that you said, Greg. Especially the fact that the biggest complaint that you'll hear people say is, I just don't have enough time. I need more time. And that's not the solution. Number one, because it's not possible, right? You can't have more time.
Nope.
You can free up more time. The problem is we try to jam too many things into a 24-hour day. That's what the problem is. I think it starts with, just like you said, know what your priorities are. To me, it's simple. Start off with, my health, my family, my finances. Those are the things that take precedent over anything else. So and then we can get into routine. Of course, we're going to get into our daily routine, but make a list of what's important to you.
Yes.
And then learn how to say no. So I think one of the biggest things is we try to take on so much and say, yeah, we'll do this. I'd love to do that. And just all of a sudden we've got all these things that just never get done. So I think it's number one, making sure you're clear on what your priorities are, getting those into the calendar, and then being able to just absolutely say no. Mm-hmm. So I just finished reading a book by Tim Grover called Winning. That's the guy that wrote Relentless, which is an amazing book, by the way. If you haven't read Relentless, it's something you've got to read. And Winning was pretty good. And he said no is a full sentence. No is a complete sentence. Like, just learn how to say no to things that don't fit into your priorities, and don't put them into your schedule. Don't put them into your mind. And he also says, stop trying to manage your time, manage your focus.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was key. And it goes back to what you were saying. Okay, be clear on your priorities and then focus on those. And then guess what? Other stuff is not going to get done. That's okay. As long as your important things are getting done. To me, that's my definition of a perfect schedule. You make sure that your priorities are taken care of, and then everything else that doesn't get done, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna. You stimulated some thoughts, and I decided to put my thoughts onto paper and become an artist. So I drew something here, and I want to show it to everybody. And I want them to notice that it's a T on the page. Mm-hmm. Okay, you see a T. I created a T there. And then on the top left, it says IG, which is income generating. On the top right, under the boxes, on the top right, it says IS, which is income servicing. And then, of course, on the top, the real top left, in the box, it says must do. And then on top of the income servicing, it's want to. So these are things I want to do. On the left, it's things that I must do. Okay. So I suggest everybody take out a piece of paper, draw a T, and then on the left is income generating activities. On the right is income servicing activities. Make a list of all the things that would fall in the category of income generating. Make a list of all the things that'll fall into a category of income servicing. If you're confused, give you a little bit of a tip here. Giving feedback to showings, feedback from showings to your seller, that is definitely something you want to do. But it's not something that you must do in order to grow your business, continue to grow. It's important, but it should not take priority over, say, generating or follow-up or negotiating, talking to expireds and for sub-owners, all these income generating strategies. Those things should take priority over the income servicing. So the income servicings have to get done. It doesn't mean, okay, you don't have to do all those things. But when it comes to building a perfect schedule, the priority in your schedule should be the income generating activities. A long time ago, and I know you know this, Abe, I did one of these charts years ago, and I identified all the things that in the different categories, and I made a declaration that I was no longer going to do any income servicing activities again. It was never going to show up in my schedule. And I would say 95% true to that. Most people that know me kind of know that that's about accurate. He said it and he did it. That didn't mean those things didn't get done. It just meant that it required somebody else to get them done. Right. So somebody else that's responsible for those income servicing activities, their perfect schedule is going to look quite different than my perfect schedule, which is going to be filled up with more income generating activities. And then when there's all the income generating activities are done, then I do some coaching and some servicing within my companies, or I go and do some things that serve me on a personal level. So I just wanted to give that little graph there as a way to hey, here's where you can start with your must-dos and your want-tos. Make sure your must-dos are placed in your schedule first. What are some of your must-dos, Abe?
Yes, I mean, so if we're talking strictly business at this point, yeah, my must-do is generating every morning.
I don't think we have to talk strictly business, because I know what you mean by that. Okay. Because you and I both know that our morning doesn't start at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, no, let's go ahead and talk about the whole thing, right? Because I think they build on each other, and I think it's important for us to give people our perspective of why some of those things are important to our business.
Yes, I mean, to me, it starts off before even income generating. It starts with mind and body. It starts with physical and mental. So I mean, I think you've got to, at least for me. I mean, you don't have to, but I think for me, it has to start with, I've got to get my workout in, and I've got to get my head right to be able to take on a day that's worthwhile for me. So I think it starts there. So whatever time you choose to get up, that's your business. I'm typically up at 4:15 to 4:30 range, and I'm going to go do my workout. Listen to some podcasts, some audiobooks, get my head straight before I come into work. And then I show up to work around 7:15 to 7:30 range. And then the next thing after that is going to be my so after I've done my physical and mental, now it's going to be income generating. So 8 to 11, the first 3 hours of the day, every single day that I work is going to be income generating. So I think those two things right there, they're just not negotiable. Like my day does not start till 11 o'clock. Like those are just, it's like sleeping, it's like breathing, it's like eating. Those just have to get done. And then my day begins at 11 at that point.
Yeah. So in a way, you're and we've said this in amongst each other, and there might be videos that we talked about this. This is more like your ritual, right? So it even comes back to building the perfect schedule. So could we argue that our schedule really doesn't start until 11? Everything prior to 11 is our ritual.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. So the schedule really starts. My calendar starts at 11 a.m.
Got it. Yeah. So when in your mind, what is your, in your mind, what's the distinction between ritual and schedule for you? And I'll make a run after at the same question, but I'll ask it to you so then I can cheat and think about it more.
That's the right way to do it. So to me, ritual is just, it's non-negotiable.
Okay.
It's not something that changes. My schedule changes. So my 11 to whatever time I call it a day, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever clock it may be, I'm done. That is fluid. That changes on a daily basis, whether I have appointments, whether I have calls to make, whatever it may be, that changes. But from 4:30 until 11, that never changes. So to me, that's the ritual part, right? It's just it's etched in stone, as opposed to a schedule is fluid, dynamic. It changes.
Yeah, I'll take a different approach at this, and I'm reflecting on some of my coaching relationships, and back with Mike Ferry and Tom Ferry and Matthew Ferry, when they were all under the Ferry, Mike Ferry organization, which is just, man, if any of you are listening right now and you were ever really a part when all the Ferries were together, what a dynamic group. And they're all individually just great. But I just remember back in those are my earlier years in the business, and I was always taught that breaking it up, the schedule and the ritual, and making sure the ritual is about like the mind, the body, getting the body going. I was always taught that's kind of how I speak about it now. But back then we were observing like professional athletes. It's like a Michael Jordan. And we were looking, okay, well, let's analyze his day. And let's analyze game day. And for us in real estate, every day is game day, right? We start off and every day is a game day. So we started looking, okay, well, let's look and study professional athletes and their game day. What do they do before the game? Well, they usually had they had a ritual. They had a certain breakfast that they had. And it was very common, that they would eat this, this, and this, and they would drink this, this, and this. Then they would show up at the gym, and they had their pregame routine. They would stretch. They may get a massage. They may shoot around. They may do some drills. Then they go back and take a shower. They have headsets on and earphones on while they're and then they may meditate. Every one of them could have done something slightly different. But what we noticed is that every game they did the same routine prior to tip off. Mm-hmm. So we could call that the pregame routine, their pregame ritual. So we just kind of thought, and I was coached that, look, if this is what people are doing that are at the top of their game, then we should probably be doing the same thing. Now, when I look back at it, I sit here and say, gosh, my first call was better than most people's first call, because my first call, I was already warmed up. The other person's first call, they were just started. They were just getting started. I'm already an hour into my routine. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for that first conversation. I'm already sharp. That's the reason why prior to your day starting in business, you must have that schedule or routine on a personal level. Now you can do it. Walk your dog, walk your cat, walk your rabbit, whatever you want to do, move. The key is movement, physical movement and mental movement. Get the body engaged, get the mind engaged, however you may do it. That's your pregame routine, and that's setting yourself up for a fantastic rest of the day. So that's just kind of my take on like that pregame routine, that ritual. And then again, the highest priority thing on any real estate or salesperson's list should be income generating activities. Whether you're reaching out to your centers of influence, whether you're doing follow-up with leads that you have, you're responding to the request, people signing up to your website, you're making some sort of outbound call, expireds, FSBOs, cold calling, whatever you may be doing, that leads you to generation of a lead, you must do that first thing in the morning. What is your take on why it must be done first thing in the morning?
Well, it's like everything else. I mean, you know, if you have to eat a frog, eat it first thing in the morning, right? Get it over with. The longer you delay, the longer you go into the day, the more likely things are going to pop up. Then all of a sudden it doesn't get done. Then you miss one day, then you miss 2 days that week, and you miss 6 days that month. And before you know it, you're doing 20, 30, 40% less business than you ordinarily would. So just like the workouts have to be done first thing in the morning if you want to be consistent. Your generating has to be done second thing in the morning if you want to be consistent. Otherwise, it just doesn't get done. It'll fall through the cracks.
Yeah. And the reason why it doesn't get done is because life starts to show up. Distractions show up. I believe, I've never read a study on this, but I remember saying this one time, and then like a lot of times I'll say something and then I look back at what I said and I said, oh crap, that was actually pretty good. And here's what I said is every hour that goes by, the number of distractions increase. So how many friends do you have that you wake up at 4:15, 4:30, right?
Yes, somewhere in that range.
Okay. How many people are calling you and texting you between 4:30 and 5:30?
2. You and Shadi.
Okay, me and Shadi. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And a lot of times it's probably about working out of some level, right? Are you going to get up and start moving, or are you being slack today? You know, okay, got it. So there's your 2 distractions. Now let's go and say from 7:30 to 8:30, how many emails, calls, texts are you getting?
Not
more than 2.
Starting, yeah.
But more than 2, probably.
Yeah.
And then 9:30 to 10:30, every single hour that we go, the number's going to increase until we get down to around 5 o'clock. Now, maybe between 1 and 4, it doesn't necessarily increase. I'm just saying it gets to a level that is just completely distracting. Right. Now, it's going to start tapering down around, say, 5 o'clock. It'll start to decrease again. So there's an argument, and I hear this all the time. Greg, why don't you think more people are available to talk in the evening than in the morning at 8 o'clock? The answer is yes. But you're not available to talk every evening, because if you have some sort of hobby, maybe you like to play tennis, you're in a tennis league, you're going to miss a few days. Maybe you have a child that's active, and maybe they have some sort of hobby, a sport, an art, or something that they want to do, they love to do, and you want to be a parent that's engaging with them and supporting them. You're probably going to go to mommy and me soccer, or you're going to go and sit there for hours while they're at dance school or whatever else they may be doing. So the number of hours you will prospect in a year between 5 and 8 will be significantly less than you'll prospect between 8 and 11 due to distractions. So we can sit here and try to argue, yeah, but Greg, I think statistics show that more people, yeah, okay, we'll do that for a year. So statistically, you're right. But what the statistic doesn't show is how inconsistent an agent's going to show up, because that time frame is part of the schedule. It's not part of the ritual.
Yeah, I always tell agents, when they ask, when's the best time to call, I give them two answers. The best time to reach people is 4 to 7 in the afternoon or Saturday and Sunday mornings. The best time for you to call people is first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. So there's a big difference, because you're not going to call people every afternoon, because things are going to happen. So you're going to miss some days. So the best time for you to do it and do it consistently is going to be the first thing in the morning. Yeah,
and so consistent leads to the compound effect.
No question. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the key here. So when we're talking about building the perfect schedule, what we're really communicating here is we have to make sure that the things that are most important, the highest priority activities, all get done before 11 o'clock. But beware, there are not many important activities that you need to prioritize within that period of time, because they should all be either pre-game routines, so you can be sharper in your income generating activities, or they need to be income generating activities. And if you're sitting here saying, well, I don't have a lot of income generating activities to take me all the way up to 11, then my coaching would be, well, find some, engage in some, take that on, and you'll see your business grow. Now, here's the key. When you take care of your business and you work on building you and your business, you're sharper and able to do way more things when you start kicking in and start working in the schedule. So you'll see that when you get your stuff taken care of, everything unfolds properly. You've got appointments to go on this afternoon because of your income generating activity. Well, then that will dictate your other activities, which is going to be preparing, researching, and getting ready to go on that appointment. So there's going to be some things like giving a seller some feedback on your showings. Now, that's usually automated now through most programs, but so I'm just thinking hypothetical. I'm not saying that you don't do those things, but you just do not put priority over those things over your income generating activities and your appointments, etc.
Yeah. So, Greg, we've got about 4 minutes left, 4 or 5 minutes left. If you guys have any questions out there, please just post a question, any comment that you want. You've got us live for 30 minutes. So, take advantage of that. Ask any questions that you have.
Yes.
So we've got the routine down, the ritual first thing in the morning. You've got the income generating. Now it's 11 o'clock. So what does that look like for a top producer, Greg? So what should people think about after 11 o'clock?
So I think, personally, I think and I'd love to hear what your answer is, but I think the most critical thing to do at 11:01 is to immediately respond to people that had reached out to you prior to 11. So that would be the time. Now, top producer may have an assistant or checking their voicemails and things like that. So I'm just going to speak to the solo agent right now. Let's assume that you don't have anyone checking emails, checking out your voicemails, etc., or maybe you're getting some text. Then from 11 to 11:30, you do nothing more than return calls, because you don't want large spans of time to go by without people without reaching back to people. Then, because that only creates a worse situation, because now they're calling again and again and again and again. You're getting blown up. So you need to get ahead of it and take care of all that, or have an assistant doing that between 8 to 11. So you really don't have a lot. But check in. Return calls, check in with your assistant to see if there's anybody that needs to be called. And that should be done between 11 and 11:30. I happen to go to lunch at 11:30, roughly to 12 o'clock every day. So I focus on that for about 30 minutes, and then I move on out to get a bite to eat. And then I'm back at it, say at 12:30 to 1 o'clock, usually around 12:30 to 12:45. Yeah. So my first thing is making sure if there's my assistant needs something, or if there's any pressing, any communication that I need to follow up with.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. Right at 11 o'clock is typically when my assistant will reach out to me. Okay, this is what happened this morning. this is what we got to address. Return any phone calls, check some emails, call some sellers if we have any offers, present some offers. Typically happens around that time. And then I go to lunch once that's done, typically.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so after that, then you've got, of course, if you've got appointments, you go on appointments.
Yeah. Yeah, you get research done. If you got an appointment, you're going to have to research. In my case, I have somebody doing all the research and setting that up for me, right? Because now, and somebody may hear that and say, oh, that sure would be nice. As in, that sure would be nice to have your life. No. I spent 20 years to put myself in this position. I grinded more than most people that will ever listen to this recording. I grinded more than probably 5 or 6 people will ever grind combined. I earned this position. I earned it because I followed my ritual. You want to be in a position where you don't have to do your own research, that, like I have a listen appointment today. Somebody called me, left a voicemail. My assistant called them, got their information. I called them, had about a 7-minute conversation, set up an appointment for today. My assistant did all the research, prepared all the paperwork, put it in a nice folder with a yellow notepad. Yes, I still use a yellow notepad. It's in the folder. That folder's sitting on my station. I will go to that appointment at the appropriate time, and I will pick up that folder. Now, my assistant's a little bit old school. She will have an actual map in my folder drawn out. Even though I use my maps on my car or my phone, she will still have that. The key is, think about the system. She's just dialed in. She has the tax records, the past printouts, the CMA, everything will be there. I'll just pick that up and I'll go to that appointment. But what allows me to find myself in this position is I did so much generation that I have the amount of business that allows me to go ahead and set up those systems. And every one of you, if you'll commit to working the perfect schedule, which schedule really starts at 11, doing everything else prior to 11 that we're talking about, if you'll do those things, you'll have plenty of transactions and revenue to set up your business the exact same way.
If we've said this once, we've said it 1,000 times. When you generate, you don't have to tolerate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not going to have maybe Greg's system or lifestyle or setup. But if you commit to generating 3 hours every single day, then your business is just going to explode, where you can actually do whatever you choose to do. You want to hire assistants, you want to hire people to do these things for you. It becomes much easier to do. But you'll
have options. You'll have options to do things at a much more inspiring way, in a much more inspiring way.
So that's where from 11 a.m. and on, it looks different every single day. So it really depends on what you end up doing that day, if there's appointments or not. But I'm not concerned with after 11. It really doesn't matter what my day looks like after 11, because if I get everything that I'm supposed to do between 4:15 and 11 a.m., everything else falls into place.
Yeah. Yeah. All the priorities are taken care of. And again, I want to reiterate this. And when you set priorities, which is income generating activities prior to 11, when you set those priorities and you show up for those priorities and you execute on those priorities, you give yourself so much more resources to then design the afternoon. Like, I can take off at 4 o'clock and play tennis or work on a car or go for a run, go and attend my kids' stuff. I can do all that every single day. And my clients don't suffer.
Right.
My clients don't suffer because I have somebody else taking care of all those other things. But I would never be able to, and if there's any parents out there, you may appreciate this, and maybe if you don't look at it this way, maybe this will make a difference in your life. And that is, I don't go to watch my kids so I can see how my kids do. I go to watch my kids so they can see their father watching them. I'm not going because it's like, I love to watch them play tennis, but I don't miss I'm at every practice. Abe and I live next door to each other. And I know some days late afternoon, Abe's is working out of his house, and I know exactly where he's sitting, where he was sitting at the back window. I think you've got this pretty office that you sit in now. So you probably don't see me, but if you're sitting at your office, you've probably seen me many days at 4 o'clock, 4:30, walk through your backyard to the tennis court and sit there. And this is just practice because I want my son to see me watching him. Some of you this may resonate with you. The only way that I can make sure that my son sees that I care enough to watch him and show up is if I actually show up for my morning ritual. My morning ritual and my commitment to income generating activities before 11 is what allows me to be the parent that I want to be. It allows me to be the friend that I want to be, the husband that I want to be, the hobbyist that I want to be. Most people in real estate wish they had more time to invest in themselves. And I have news for you. You actually have the time to invest in yourselves. You're just not allocating your time properly. You're not prioritizing the activities and committing to the execution of those priorities. When you get that done, the next beautiful life will begin.
Drop the mic right there. I mean, that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
That's it.
Two quick questions, and we got to run. I've got an appointment at 1 o'clock.
Yes,
we'll get a listing. So
I love it.
You can handle this one.
Hey, Aggie, she's in our Real Geeks Mastery group. Abe, I don't know. She was on the call last week. It might have been her first call. You weren't on there last week, but anyways. Hey, Aggie, and we'll address that even more in Real Geeks Master if you want to bring that up. But, for me, income generating activities are like calling expireds, calling FSBOs, circle prospecting, centers of influence prospecting. Now, some people are going to say, well, what about negotiating? I actually believe negotiating is a servicing activity. So my assistant does the negotiations. And yes, she handled well over 150 of them last year. She's a great negotiator. Okay, so what's important here is that as your business grows, your definition of income servicing and generating will shift. Like sometime in the beginning, you won't let negotiating go because you're too attached. You need to make sure every deal goes through. You need to babysit and have your hands in everything. With me, that would stunt my growth at this stage. So income generating for me is some sort of activity that at the end of that activity, meaning a conversation, the result can be a listing appointment, a buyer appointment. Now that said, the result can be. It doesn't mean it always is. It doesn't mean it always is.
And here's a great comment from Kirk, my man Kirk.
Yeah, Kirk.
Ritual leads to schedule that leads to freedom of choices. Spot
yes.
on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then Jenny's got a question for me real quick, and we'll hit this and then we'll call it a day. What activities is your VA doing for you? Lee, so I mean, I think I've said this before probably on this platform. I believe in delegating up, not delegating down. So, Greg talked about making that list of income servicing and income generating. So the way I like to operate is I start from my VAs, and then anything that they can physically do, anything that they're capable of doing, anything that they're trained to do starts with them. Now, if it's something that they can't do, then my assistant will either train them on doing it or it gets delegated up to her. Now, she also handles everything she can do up to her limits, and then whatever she can't handle, the same thing again. Either I train her on how to do it or it gets delegated up to me at that point. So I believe in delegating up. It only comes up to me if no one else can handle it, then it comes up to me. But even when that happens, I'll try to train my assistant on, look, this is how it should be done in the future, and then she will typically take it on. I don't know if that answers your question. There's a lot of little things that I can maybe make a list one day and send, but pretty much anything they could possibly physically do is what I have them do. Yeah,
and my answer would be this: anything that you can do or an assistant can do, a virtual assistant can do. They are extremely powerful in their abilities to get things done. And you know, the key is all about what are you willing to let them do. Now, personally, I don't have them communicating with my clients. I have them doing kind of all the back end work, but I will say they can do anything that you will allow them to do and are willing to invest the time to train them to do. Now, Abe, I know that you're contemplating, I don't know that you've completed, but you're planning on doing a course on hiring and setting up VAs within your business. Are you still thinking of doing something like that?
Yeah, I'm just finishing the outline. That's something
okay.
Hopefully it should be done this month.
Okay, well, cool. Well, good. So if anybody wants some additional information on that, you could just private message, you know, Abe. He'll make sure that you get a notification when that's complete if you want to join. And other than that, let's end today. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Please share you know, this with your realtor friends across the country. Sure would love to continue to build the real estate sales solutions community. The more people that are engaging, the more help that we're giving each other, the more we're all going to grow. And then, of course, go to realestatesalessolutions.com. That's Abe and our website. We do post some free material on there. You can find some free courses. You can find some other real estate courses that, you know, that we charge a small fee to get in. It's a much higher level, mastery level type of coaching. Feel free to join us. We'd love to have you part of the Real Geeks, or not Real Geeks, I'm sorry, Real Estate Sales Solutions family. Abe, thank you so much. Go get that listing. I'm sure you will.
You got it. See ya.
All right, man. Bye-bye.